What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with the Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to talk about CPI, which just came out, as the numbers are a little bit harder than expected. And what's also going on with some big earnings. Now, all of this could affect the charts that we are looking at. But before I break down all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention two things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very soon. Anyways, now let's break down what's happening with the market. SPY is currently down 1.27%, sinking right now like a rock after CPI came out. Tesla's down 2.7%. Aapl is down about 1.07%, barely holding 185. The QQQ is down almost 2%. Nvidia is down 2%. The market is sinking as a result of CPI. And here's the exact reason why. One reason is the 10-year treasury yield is going up because CPI was hotter than expected. So it's very, very important. So what are the numbers looking like? Here they are right here. CPI year over year was 3.1%. That is on the hotter end of the forecast of 3.1%. But if you actually look at the specific numbers in more detail, month over month, we were hotter than expected. We went up 0.3%. We wanted this to be 0.2%. So CPI, the numbers for CPI for all items were not the worst. They were a little bit hotter than what we expected on the hotter end of the forecast. But here's where the real issue lies. It's core CPI. Core CPI was 3.9%. We were expecting 3.7%. It went up month over month, 0.4%. The forecast was 0.3%. This means that core CPI was hotter than expected, and this makes things more complicated for the Fed. Here is the chart. So notice how the purple line right here had a slight increase. CPI went up just a little bit for core, but for all items, CPI it actually went down. Not that far from expectations. So because core CPI is still very sticky and starting to go up just a little bit, this makes things a bit more complicated for the Fed. Right here, you could see we had a 96.5% chance now that the Fed is going to keep rates the same and only a 3% chance that they're going to cut. So that once again favors a more hawkish Fed, keeping rates higher for longer. And that's not what the market was expecting initially. The market's hit new highs, and now it's starting to fall as a result of CPI. There's some news that came out as the shares of JetBlue have spiked 15% after a very important investor, Carl Icahn, he's come out and basically bought about 10% of the company. Uh, we also had some big earnings coming out for like Coca-Cola and the others out there, which had pretty good earnings. I'll talk about that in just a minute. Bitcoin's continuing to climb, but things are changing with CPI. So watch for this very, very carefully. And finally, for the Super Bowl, we actually had an all-time high most watch television show, I guess in the USA, maybe not ever. 123.4 million people watched the game in the US and also around the world. So that's great. Good for them, good for advertisers. Anyways, let's talk about some earnings before I break down the charts and CPI. We have Shopify and Coca-Cola. Later on, we have Airbnb, Upstart, Robinhood, Lyft. And then here are the earnings coming out for Thursday, like DraftKings, Coinbase, and Roku. How did Shopify do? It actually is dropping because it did okay with EPS and revenue. We got about 34 cents, including one-term items. And revenue is up 24%, but their guidance was not the best. The Q4 operating margin was not the greatest. And for the full year 2024, revenue growth in the low 20 percentage point range is not what many analysts were expecting. Analysts forecast revenue was actually higher than that. And with that coming out, and because of other things coming out with rising capital spending projections, we actually saw the share price of Shopify drop. So it is what it is, guys, a little bit negative. Then there's Coca-Cola, which is holding up decently. They beat sales estimates by higher prices, luckily. They met on EPS, beat on revenue, and guidance has been decent overall. So they're actually holding up. Not the worst, not the best, just so-so for Coke. Now the question is what's happening with the charts. So it's very simple. SPY is very weak. It could sink a little bit more. Watch 494 as critical support. We have to try to hold that. If we lose 494, SPY could be sinking back down to the very low 490s, back down to 492.5. That's where we have this like shop area, 492 to 494. That's a range to watch for, but we have to hold 494. It's very critical that we close above this. If we close below this, SPY has a risk of dropping lower. So watch for a little bit more selling. It's actually losing the 4-hour 50 EMA. It's barely holding this. We have a gap to fill. We're going to likely fill this gap right here in the 494 area and watch and see if it could bounce and hold above this. Watch resistance at 496 is critical resistance, and then 498. We're looking weak. Watch this gap to fill at 494, and we'll see if it holds. Then we have 492 below that. SPY is looking weak, so watch 494 to come, and then we'll see how it reacts to that. If it loses that, watch 492, and we have to try to close above 494 to remain on an uptrend. If we lose that, we're going to turn even more bearish. If we close below it, especially. For the triple Q, watch 429 as resistance, and we have support at 427. If we lose that, 425 is coming next. The QQQ is looking relatively weak, so watch 427 very, very carefully, and we'll have to see how it goes. I also want to note that we have this gap to fill right over here. We're filling this gap at 427. We'll see how the QQQ reacts to that. That's going to be our key support. We're barely holding up. We're looking very weak right now, especially thanks to big tech. So be careful, guys. QQQ could drop lower to 425. Let's hope it tries to hold support and bounces off that level. Otherwise, below that, we have 423.8. And then for our resistance, watch 429 essentially and 430. Make sure you guys watch those levels very, very carefully. Looking at Tesla, Tesla's looking bearish. It looks bearish. It's coming down. We've just lost 184. Our next target is 182. If we lose this, the notorious 180 is coming next. So watch that very, very carefully on Tesla. The chart is still looking relatively weak. So we'll see if Tesla could hold 182, if not 180. We should see some buyers trying to defend it around this area. If we lose 180, we're going to turn really bearish. So we have to hope Tesla closes above the 180 range. If we don't, we're going to turn more bearish. If we do, we're going to be okay. There's still a chance it could try to bounce. So look for this thing to attempt to rebound a bit. Then we're going to be watching it essentially drop lower. Watch and see if we hold 182. If we lose it, I mean, we do have a risk of dropping even lower. So it's still looking very weak. Be careful with Tesla. There's still a risk of that. Even if buyers try to defend it, be very careful. Nvidia is helping to drag the triple Q down. We're barely at 705. There's going to be a risk of it coming down towards 700 very, very soon. Not looking the strongest. If we lose 700 or close below that, we're going to turn a lot more bearish. We could be looking for 694. And if we manage to break out, watch 707 as resistance and then 712, followed by 715. But I just wanted to say that for Nvidia, 707 is a very, very key zone. We're going to see some of this shuffling price action around here. We're looking a little bit weaker. You guys can see this downtrend, right? Lower high, lower low, lower high. Looking a little bit weak. Watch 707. If we lose that, 700 is coming. We also have this shop zone to be watching for right here. So we're at a very, very key level on Nvidia. If we lose this and keep sinking, 700 is our next target, then 694. So watch these levels carefully. Watch resistance at 707 and 712 and 715. I think that Nvidia has a risk of dropping even lower, could rebound a bit and then continue its drop. So be careful. It still looks very, very weak. And then last but not least, for Apple stock, it's looking not the best because one thing that we did is we called out this head and shoulders, the left shoulder, the head, and the right shoulder, and Apple came right back down. I said 185 is coming. That's exactly where Apple has been trying to test. We kind of bounced off this a little bit, trying to hold 185. If we lose this, 184.25 is coming, followed by 182. And we watch resistance at 185.5, followed by 186.5. Those are resistance levels. So you have a head and shoulders. We're looking very weak right now. We'll see how it kind of shuffles in the 185s. If we lose 185, a bigger drop is coming. So be very careful, guys. Apple is still looking weaker. So that being said, thank you all so much for listening. The market could drop lower. Make sure you watch the key levels I called out. CPI was a little bit hot. There's a risk of more selling. So with that being said, be careful. Watch the market continue to sink, but let's see if buyers could defend us soon. Watch the key supports, and we'll have to see how we do from here. But the market's looking weak. We could sink lower. Be careful, everyone. And I just want to give you guys that warning. Make sure you watch the levels and you're prepared for what's about to happen. CPI is a little hot overall, so do what you have to do, guys. And I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you and peace out.